Hi everyone, it's Gavin here, so I'm going to give you my opinion. This is the Hyperkin Retron 5. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a retro console that enables you to play Famicom, NES, Super NES, Super Famicom, Genesis, Mega Drive, Game Boy, Super Game Boy Enhanced Game Boy games, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advanced games on a HD TV via HDMI port. This came out in the middle of June of this year. The retail price is $140. It's only available in America at the moment. There are plans for it to come out in Europe, but so far those are probably going to be around about August to September of this year. So this is the box for the system. What you have is quite a nice stylised box. I quite like the style that these retro consoles are getting nowadays. The boxes it used to be just a plain box with almost just a very simple print just stuck on it. But Hyperkin stylised it. You've got a wedge that's taken off the corner here. You've got a glossy print over the image of the console. What you get in the box is the console, the wireless controller, the mini USB to micro USB charging cable for the controller. You also get a HDMI lead as well as a multi-voltage AC adapter with heads for US and Japan, Europe, UK and Australia. So it will work in any of those countries without any problems, without needing any special adapters for it. And this is the console itself. I went for the black one because there is also a grey version which looks like an American Super Nintendo, but I prefer the black look. What you get is you get gloss black on the top, matte black on the middle and grey on the bottom. On the top you can see we have the Famicom, NES, Super NES, Super Famicom slot and the Mega Drive slot. Now the Mega Drive slot is at the back next to this hole here. The reason why is this is for the power base converter, so you're actually also able to play Master System games on it as well. It also doubles up as a place to where to put the controller. On the front of the system you have your power button. Now to turn the system on, a lot of people complained that when you can't just tap the power button for it to turn on. Instead what you have to do is hold it down for about 10 seconds and the system will then start up. You also have display lights on the side or top here which identify which system you've got a game in for. When there's no cartridge in the system, all 5 lights will light up. You also have the Game Boy slot here, which is obviously for taking all the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color games. On the side, one of the great features of this system is you actually have ports for a Super Nintendo controller, an NES controller and a Genesis controller on both sides, so you've got basically two of each, and that works with the original controller, and also some accessories will work with it. On the back you have your AC adapter, your mini USB charging port, you also have the HDMI and an SD card slot. Now the SD card slot has 2 features. One is for updating the firmware for the system, adding the cheats to it. It's got a cheat system like Action Replay in there, but also for capturing, you can do save states. You can save if the card's got a battery backup or some sort of storage on it, you can record that to the system as well to back those up. And also for screenshots, you can take screenshots of the system, the native resolution image from the console, from the game you're playing. The system does have some storage internally, so you can do the save states without needing the SD card. But obviously, if you're like me and you want to be able to keep those save states, you need to use the SD card from the off to store those. Now here's the controller for the Retron 5. It's stylised to look kind of like a mix between almost like a Mega Drive, an NES and a Super NES controller. However, all the buttons are micro switches rather than just normal things. They all make that satisfying click. And also the controller, the D-pad is a micro switch joystick similar to a Neo Geo X, Neo Geo Pocket, Neo Geo CD controller. You also have 4 LED similar to the PlayStation 3, which will identify not only when the system's being used, also identify what player you are out of the 4. Because you can mix and match controllers, you're able then to pick whether you want to be player 1 to 4 using a number of these wireless controllers, or you can use a Super Nintendo controller and the other controllers. I mean, you mix those so you can use multi-tap capabilities like Bomberman using a mixture of the Genesis, SNES, NES and the wireless controllers. Then on the top we have the shoulder buttons similar to the Super Nintendo, and then we have there which is the micro USB charging port. Now they give you the lead to charge this from the system, but you can charge it using any standard USB port as well. I've done that without any problems. The other thing just to point out is you also have the home button there, which is the button for going back to the menu on the system. It's actually an Android OS. It's actually the game's actually emulated. They're imported into the system and they run for emulation. And then you have mode buttons where you can configure these to do certain things like change filters and screenshots. And that's there. So that's the hardware of the system. And now we're going to talk about the software features. One of them is the fact that because it's HD, the graphics are actually upscaled to 720p, so they look pretty. Obviously, they do look big blocks. It's an 8-bit game, but they do look much crisper, much clearer. And there's actually a range of filters you can try and smooth out the pixels as well. There's also a cheat system which you can download from the Hyperkin site, and you can then transfer that to the SD card, put that in the system, and you're able to launch cheats similar as you would with the Game Genies and Action Replays and that sort of stuff. You also have the ability to use any controller on any game, so you can play a Super Nintendo game with a Genesis controller or an NES controller, or just the wireless controller. You also have the ability to use that as a multi-tap. So if you've got 4 controllers connected up the system, wireless or whatever, you're able to play games like Bomberman without the need of a proper multi-tap and 4 Super Nintendo controllers, which not many people have that many Super Nintendo controllers lying around. They may have had one because they broke it and replaced it, but they're able to obviously use the existing controllers to play those games. You also have the ability to upgrade the firmware on the system. The way it actually works is it's emulated, so the games are actually, when you put a cartridge in the system, it actually reads the ROM information and copies it up the cart and holds it into like a temporary memory, and then when you turn the system off or take the cart out, it then bins that information. But it also has save states, so while you are playing that game, if you wish to create a save state because you're coming up to a boss and you know you're going to die and want to try again, or if you want to just stop playing the game and play something else, you can go back to the original game at any point. The save states are there. Now those can be saved to the internal memory, about a gig of memory in there, or to the 2 gig, or it can be saved to the SD card. Now I would recommend the SD card because obviously you can take that out, you've always got that saved down there. Now the main reason I brought the Retron 5 was actually for another save feature, is that it actually can capture the battery backup of a game. Again, because it's emulated, it actually has to read it into the system first. So any battery saves that you've got, or any game saves that you've got on the cart, can be read into the system, and once they're read into the system, they are stored on, again, internal memory or SD card, and you're able to use that to play your game, and then if you choose to, you can also restore that save back to the cart. Now that's a brilliant feature because these carts are getting on 20 years plus. I mean, Super Metroid here, 20-odd-year-old game. Now, as these things are getting old, there's a battery in there which wears out, and when these batteries wear out, you will lose your game save. And I'm sure there's people out there who've lost their game saves on Pokemon Gold and Silver because of the battery was running the clock and the game save. And obviously, you've lost that data, you've lost that gameplay you've done, all the progress you've made. Using the save feature of Retron 5, you can back up the game saves and continue playing the game on the Retron from that game save, and also put it back onto the cart when you're finished. So it's always in the cart, and if you replace the battery on the cart because it's gone dead, you can then restore it back there, which is my plan. Keep it safe on the Retron 5, battery goes flat on the cart, change the battery out, put it back onto the cart, and go from there. That's also kind of like the downside to it, which I'll go into in a second. Another feature is screenshots. You can take screenshots. Now it only captures them in the native resolution of the game itself. So Game Boy screenshots are very small. Other ones are standard 480p resolution, standard resolution. Now I really like the console, and I know people think I'm kind of gushing over it slightly. Yeah, I do like it. It's great. It's nice to be able to play, games, especially with TV starting to not have SCART or composite ports on them. To being able to play these old consoles still on brand new TVs, if I go and buy a brand new latest one, without having to find some sort of transfer box to convert from the old video standards to HDMI, that's great, and it does the upscaling for me. It's quite a nice tight upscaling. There are a couple of downsides to it, which a lot of people complaining that the ports are very tight. Now I look at that as a positive kind of, because obviously you want fresh connectors, you want to be able to get the game in, you want it to sit, you don't want pins not to be touching. However, yes, you do feel it can take quite a bit to get a cartridge out, and you do feel like you might break the cart. And this is your 20-year-old game that you've got 100% on and things like that, and you don't want to lose it. But the main problem I've got with it is actually down to its greatest feature, as far as I'm concerned. That's the game saves, saving the battery backup, because obviously it's a new system, it's only just come out. Hyperkin is still trying to make sure they're trying to get to 100% compatibility, which they obviously need to know if there's problems, but they can't test everything right now. So they are having to rely on the communities to tell them where there's problems. Now, I've not tested all my games, I've tested some of them, and there's a couple of things that, obviously where things are incompatible. Now, the first thing that's incompatible is light guns. It's not because the system can't handle a light gun, it won't work for the system, it's the technology, the TV technology, because it's using HDMI. You're most likely having it plugged up to a flat screen CRT or LCD monitor. Those don't work with those old CRT technology, reading technologies like the light guns or ROB, for example. So you're unable to use your ROBs, your menacers, your zappers, your enforcers, your super scopes, not because the games won't play, but because the controller won't work, because it's not, the technology is just not there, as I said. The other thing is the way the system works is that because it dumps the cart into the memory before it plays, is anything that has like a secondary boot feature, maybe like it was originally the Sonic Knuckles and Sonic 3 was an issue where you couldn't play the game that was enhanced native and just read Sonic and Knuckles, you wouldn't see the Sonic 3. That's now been fixed with the latest version 1.5 at this time from the software point of view, but obviously that doesn't work now. Like I said, the system has a cheat device built into it anyway, so it doesn't really cause much problem, but things like Game Genies and Action Replays, when you put them in, it will read the carts, but it doesn't, once you put a cheat in, it doesn't proceed to the actual game itself. It just sits there at the cart level on itself. This is the same for Super Game Boy 1 and 2. All you get is the border, the startup border. You don't get the game. It doesn't read the actual game cart because it's just reading the chips off of here. It doesn't continue to read that. Now, obviously, that's not such a problem because obviously you're playing the system. The system's capable of playing Game Boy Color, Game Boy games anyway, and the Super Game Boy Enhanced stuff. The other thing that doesn't work is this is Super Family Turbo. Super Family Turbo. This is a Japanese-only device. It's released by Bandai. It enables you to get games that are on small carts, and you can put one in one slot, and you can play the game. And then if you've got like this one is Purple Ninja, if your friend had the same game, he could bring it over and import his character data into your game. Other games, there's Gundam games where you can progress the story and then you can transfer your character data from one to the other. This doesn't work. All this sees is the Super Family Turbo cart, and what it actually says to you is it asks you if you wish to copy the data from one cart to the other, but doesn't actually see the actual game carts that are into it. It just sticks to try to do that copy and then fails. So those kind of like expected issues. There are some compatibility issues with games themselves. I've not done all my collection. I've done a couple of things, and there's a couple of issues so far with this current firmware. The main issue I've got is this. It's Super Metroid. There's a glitch with the save data that even just by reading the save data off this cart actually erases it. And if you then try and write, I downloaded my save data to the cart, to the system, took it out, went to put it back on my Super Nintendo, it was completely erased. The same happens if you try and restore it, it just blanks it completely. So you either need to progress the game just on the system and not able to restore it to the cart, or at the moment, Hyperkin are aware. I've made them aware of the issue, and they are, I believe, I hope they're looking to fix it. Similar issues have appeared with things like Pokemon on the original Game Boy. Pokemon Yellow works fine. Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red. These are the UK versions that I've got. Both games, they downloaded the save to the system, and that worked. However, trying to restore the save back to the cart corrupted it on the cartridge, so it's still safe on the system, for as long as I've got it on the system. Again, I'm hoping they're going to fix it later releases. It's also the same with Final Fight 1 and 2, Dawn of Souls on the Game Boy Advance. It will download the save, it's stored on the console, but if you try and write it back, it corrupts the one on the cart. And the other ones I've got issues with are the Pokemon on the Game Boy Advance range. Emerald, Leaf Green, Fire Red. Emerald worked fine without any problems. So did Ruby. Sorry, not Ruby, Sapphire. So the whole Spartan game. Those two worked fine. They save, they restore to the cart, no problems. However, Pokemon Leaf Green, Fire Red, and Ruby, for some strange reason, I don't know why, they will actually read the save. Sorry, they won't read the save. They say they've read the save in, but when you go to play the game, you're actually presented with as if it's a brand new game, no save at all. But when you take the game back out, the cart itself still has the data, so it doesn't corrupt the cart, it just doesn't download the save. Again, these are all things I've told Hyperkin, so hopefully these will be resolved in later firmware releases. But that's much it. So I really do like the Hyperkin Retron vibe, and we'll hopefully future firmware releases will solve problems and improve the compatibility. I am going to try going through my entire collection and check all the games out from the point of play. If you're a retro gamer and you have a collection of games, it's well worth picking up, especially if you'd like to go back to them from time to time, purely from the save point, just to keep the saves so you don't lose them, especially with all the time you might have played on a game and put into it. I'm planning to actually do a update videos as I go with my testing on all my games, so people will be able to see what games have not worked. I will list the ones that haven't worked, and also ones that have been resolved via future firmware patches from where things go. So that's my opinion of the Retron 5. Do I suggest you get one? As I said, if you're a retro gamer and you've got a large amount of games, especially if they've got battery saves, it's worth getting it just so you can back them up before they fail. So you don't lose these games and the data that you've built up all the time you've played. So that's it, guys. I'll see you all later.